Hello, everybody. It is Danny, and we're back out on the porch today. Um, Sitting here enjoying some cool breeze blowing through here. Got a little bit of rain. God's been good. Um, but I wanted to talk to you guys today. I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research and studying and reading books and different things when I have time on the Great Depression, the World Wars, and these types of things. And I've done some porch times over on Deep South Homestead over there. I did one here the other day called, the Modern Great Depression. It's gone. It's not viral, but it's really getting a lot of views. And I realized the importance of this at this particular time in history for our country. And as I read through some of these books of the stories, and I watch documentaries if you go online, you can look at the states, and they have documentaries of these things about their state, and you go back to that period in history, and you can read some things, and they actually have videos you can watch of people talking about the Depression and some of the things that happened at certain years in their state and things like that. It's amazing, but I've come to I found a common denominator that I really wasn't looking for, but I did find it. And I wanted to title this video, The Silent Heroes of the Great Depression Era. Now, I'm using the word era because it's going to cover from like 1929 on up into the 50s there, or let's say late 40s. And it's going to take in the Depression, some of the World Wars. I found some silent heroes in there. And totally unexpected, just ran across this randomly. It's been there the whole time, and you know what, guys? I'm almost ashamed that I didn't see this earlier. During the Great Depression, these heroes that I'm talking about, we did a video the other day talking about filling in the gaps. We're talking about how the kids during the Great Depression era filled in the gaps. They would go out and work, and they would help take care, bring income in for the families and do things like that, bring food in and things like that. But there was those silent heroes that we all forget about. And shame on us for doing that. These silent heroes, they're always there. They're selfless. They're always giving. They hardly ever ask for anything in return. They're always giving. And as I look through these stories, these documentaries of the world wars and the Depression times and the Dust Bowl and all these things that happen here in our country, I begin to look for these stories. And I hope after this video today, you yourself will go and look for these videos, because they're there, or these stories, or however you want to call it, they're all there. And guys, you know what? A lot of us have these heroes in our families. They go completely unrecognized. They are never, ever honored, usually. And it's amazing to me how they slip through the cracks in the floors. Now, there are some who are honored. I'm not trying to say all of them are not. There are some that are. But guys, the silent heroes that I'm talking about are the women, the mamas, the grandmas. How many of us growing up have made the statement, if my mama hadn't prayed for me as much as she did, there's no telling where I would have been? Or how many of you went off to war, and your mamas and your grandmas, every Sunday or Sabbath at church, they was at that altar praying for their sons? And my daddy said that his grandma had 5 sons that went off to war, and luckily all 5 of them come home. But that wasn't always the case. Sometimes mamas would send their boys off to war and they didn't come home. That's a sobering thought. But yet, those mamas had to keep on going. Some wives sent their men off to war who never returned. Left them behind with children. They had to raise. They had to make a living. And during the Depression era. There's lots and lots of stories out there, documentaries and things about mamas and grandmas who took care of their grandkids. When there wasn't enough food, they didn't eat that day. They gave the food to the kids. They were selfless. They literally gave their lives for the children. And guys, these stories, I got a rain fog here because it's raining, rainy out here. These women are everywhere throughout history. If you go back and study the Great Depression stories, the World War stories, how that after the World Wars they had to ration food, and there was not enough shoes to go around, there was not enough clothes to go around, there was all these things that happened during the World Wars and during the Depressions. Women sat by silently and let, a lot of times, the husband eat because she knew he had to work, or they let the kids eat and they did without. This is something that hardly ever gets looked at, and I want to praise the women who have done this. There's women today who have very little food to eat, and they make sure their kids have food, and lots of times they just do without. They're very selfless ladies. There's women out here today who have had a husband who's gotten injured or is now disabled, and they take care of the house, they take care of the kids, and they work. They're very selfless people. To me, they're heroes. They're the heroes that are forgotten. During the wars, when there wasn't enough men to fill in the gaps to do things, the women worked the assembly lines, and the women went to work in the factories, making sure there was parachutes made for the troopers, and there was jumping out of planes, sewing together uniforms. I mean, whatever they were doing, to serving meals, taking care of the injured, things like this. They gave of themselves because of who they were and the quality of people that they were. In our country today, it does bother me. I'm afraid that this character of people might have diminished some. I'm very thankful to know a lot of people today, especially women, that are of the quality to give of themselves and to do the best that they can do to make sure that the family's taken care of, and to be able to give of themselves. I can remember talking to some of the older ladies that talked about how they would stay up till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes getting biscuits ready and stuff like that, because the men from the camps would come in for breakfast in the mornings, and this was the only way they had of making money to keep their families going, because they didn't have a husband and they had kids to feed, and she would stay up all hours of the night making biscuits, the dough, and getting it ready so that when the men come the next morning by her place, that she could have them in the oven and they could all have their meals to be able to go out and to work in the factory, not necessarily in the factories, but the mines and the logging camps and stuff like this. Some of them worked on the rivers and stuff. I've read stories where they did that, and that was these ladies' way of making an income to be able to feed their children with, and to be able to keep their house note, their land taxes paid, and things like this. Now, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to keep them going, and they never ever complained. don't read anything about where they were complainers. You don't read anything about where they talked about, oh, how I hated having to do this. No, they gave of themselves. And guys, that is a quality that is like a diamond in a person's life. And you know, I just wanted to come on Patreon today, and I wanted to be able to talk about this, and I wanted to be able to talk about the heroes of the past, and nobody seems to want to talk about them, but I wanted to honor them. You know, I wanted to honor the women who stood in and filled in the gaps themselves for their children, for their families, and to provide livings for everybody, and were just the great women who they were. I want to do this short video for that and tell them how much I appreciate those kind of people, because there are a lot of good women out there, and God has blessed us with some truly great women in our world today. And thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for just coming over to Patreon and visiting with us, and for supporting us through Patreon, because it has become a blessing to us to have y'all over here. So once again, thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.